Chapter 20. Apologizing to Master Jang. The first lights of evening began to shine. Inside the Jang family villa, it was dinner time, but the atmosphere was heavy. The Jang family patriarch sat in the center of the living room, with the second and third families seated on either side, the younger generation on both sides all silently. Jiang Yuqing sat across from the patriarch, his face cold and somber, making him seem even more oppressive. It wasn't until Jiang Hui told him everything about the room incident that day that he learned how Jiang Su, Jiang Han, and the others had been attacking Shushu before he returned. Jiang Ying even directly said that Shushu should get out of her house. And he, without knowing the cause and effect, first questioned her for going to the Song family without permission, and then, like the others, he told her to give the room to her sister. No wonder Shushu was so disappointed that she directly said she wanted to move out. As a father, he had failed. Big brother, Ying caused this incident today because she's just a child and doesn't understand. It's all my fault. I'll explain it to Shushu and try to get her to forgive me. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, Yao Lin took the initiative to take responsibility. Upon hearing this, Jiang Yumin frowned, took Yao Lin's hand, and said disapprovingly, "How is it your responsibility? Ying is young, and she just said what she wanted. It wasn't a big deal in the first place. I'd say Shushu is making a mountain out of a molehill. She's only been back for 2 days, and she's making a fuss about leaving home over such a small matter." Before he could finish speaking, he saw Jiang Yuqing coldly raise his eyes and interrupt him in a deep voice. "Second brother, my daughter was forced to leave home as soon as she returned. Is that a small matter?" The muscles on Jiang Yumin's face twitched. Meeting his elder brother's stern gaze, he didn't say anything more after all. Jiang Yuqing then swept his gaze over everyone, his eyes full of pressure. Jiang Ying is young, and she wanted Shushu's room because it's beautiful. It wasn't a big deal in the first place. The Jiang family isn't some small household. If she likes it, you could have renovated a room for her according to the standards of a princess with just a word. Why did you have to make Shushu give up her room? The people of the second family didn't speak, and Jiang Yuqing's voice became even deeper. You didn't want her to give up the room. You just thought that she should try to please you, perform well, and beg you to accept her since she's new here. Big brother, you're taking it too hard. They're all children. How could they have such thoughts? Don't they? If you hadn't treated her as an outsider from the beginning, why would you say something like, "Get out of my house"? Even if it's just a child's tantrum, they should know what words should be said and what words shouldn't be said. Jiang Yuqing's tone was a bit heavy. Jiang Ying, who was standing aside, trembled and immediately shrank into Yao Lin's arms. Her mouth downturned, but she didn't dare to cry out loud like she had before at the slightest disagreement. Seeing this, Yao Lin felt a pang of heartache and immediately said, "If Ying said something wrong, I'll go apologize to Shushu. I'll beg her to forgive us and come back. I, as an elder, will personally beg her. Surely she won't really refuse to come back. Eldest brother, don't blame Ying." Standing to the side, Jiang Han saw his mother acting so humble and subservient in front of his uncle. A hint of irritation flashed in his eyes, and he couldn't help but speak out. "Uncle, she left on her own accord. No one forced her. And it's not my mother's fault. Why should we have to beg her to come back? Maybe she knows she did something wrong that angered the Song family, and is afraid of Grandpa's anger, so she's using this as an excuse to run away from home." Jiang Yuqing turned his head to look at him and said in a deep voice, "If Shushu does something wrong, I will teach her. She doesn't need to answer to anyone. But Jiang Han, if you continue to have this attitude towards Shushu, then you don't need to call me uncle anymore." His voice wasn't loud, but it made Jiang Han and the others' hearts skip a beat, and they widened their eyes subconsciously. Jiang Yuqing then slowly swept his gaze over the younger generation in the hall, including Jiang Su and Jiang Cheng. "The same goes for you all. If you are unwilling to accept Shushu, then you don't need to call me uncle either." Jiang Yuqing's voice wasn't heavy, but it was more stern than ever before. The younger generation almost instinctively straightened their backs and all expressed that they wouldn't dare. Jiang Yutong, who had always respected his eldest brother, slapped his own son beside him hard and then smoothed things over with a smile. "Eldest brother, the children have sharp tongues, but they don't have bad intentions. There's no question of accepting or not accepting. Shushu is already a member of our family, it's not necessary. Jiang Yuqing's eyes darkened slightly, his voice carrying an imperceptible sense of suppression. He only said, Shushu was lost for 18 years. Even if the Guan family never deprived her of food or drink, she still suffered a lot of grievances as an adopted daughter in the Guan family. Now that she's finally back, I don't want her to suffer any more grievances. I won't ask each of you to accommodate her, but at least treat her as an ordinary family member. He paused, his voice becoming even heavier. If you can't do that, then I choose to live separately with Shushu and Jiang Huai. As soon as Jiang Yuqing said this, it was like a huge rock falling into the water, instantly causing the faces of everyone in the second and third houses to change. They never expected that the eldest brother would play so big this time. Just for Guan Shushu, he's implying that he wants to split the family. Just then, old Master Jiang, who had been silent since the beginning, finally spoke, without any trace of majesty, but in an unquestionable tone. Eldest, I don't want to hear those words a second time. He said the Jiang family as a whole. As long as I'm still here, no one is allowed to say words like moving out. Everyone in the hall was silent, not daring to refute the old master's words. Even Jiang Su only dared to mutter secretly in his heart that Guan Shushu was the one who talked about moving out. The old master then turned his gaze to the couple from the second house. The children of the Jiang family can have whatever they want, but while spoiling them, they must also understand that they can't get everything they desire in this world. Children must be taught. If you can't teach her well, I can teach her myself. Hearing that Grandpa actually intended to teach her personally, Jiang Ying trembled even more violently, almost bursting into tears. This is too terrible, she doesn't want it. Jiang Yuman and Yao Lin lowered their heads in silence, hugging their child tightly, and promised to teach her well. Seeing that the younger generation had deeply realized the seriousness of the problem, the old man Jiang stopped talking. He turned his head to Jiang Huai, who was sitting beside him, always with a lazy posture, and without saying a word. Find some time to bring your sister back. The family has also arranged a party to officially announce her identity as the eldest lady of the Jiang family. She still has to come back. Jiang Huai still had his signature smile, nodding, I understand. Old man Jiang was about to say something when the butler suddenly walked in from outside, and said to Jiang Yuqing, President Jiang, Mr. and Mrs. Song have arrived. Jiang Yuqing frowned slightly. At this hour, the Song family had come to visit in person. Could it be about Shushu's matter again? Although Shushu shouldn't have gone to their door and said those things, it was a bit much to come to their house to question her. Jiang Su and the others had just been scolded, so they didn't dare to speak casually at this moment, but they secretly exchanged glances with each other, their eyes filled with hidden schadenfreude. Guan Shushu had caused trouble, and someone had come to their door to hold her accountable. They said that she deliberately left to avoid responsibility, didn't they? It's not their fault at all. Just as they were thinking this, Mr. and Mrs. Song had quickly walked in through the door, their faces faintly anxious. Jiang Yuqing thought that Shushu had gone to their door first and caused a misunderstanding, so he softened his expression and got up to greet them. President Song, Madam Song, Shushu was naughty today and caused you trouble. I have already taught her a lesson. He thought that if he expressed his attitude first, Song Yongming and his wife would definitely not pursue the matter further. But he didn't expect that the moment they heard his words, their faces changed, and then they looked flustered and ashamed. President Jiang, please don't say that. We misunderstood Miss Jiang, because we didn't understand the situation. Miss Jiang kindly reminded us. It's all our fault for not knowing what's good for us. We know we were wrong, and we beg you to give us a chance to apologize to Master Jiang in person. The moment Mr. and Mrs. Song finished speaking, the living room seemed to fall into an eerie silence. Jiang Su and the others widened their eyes in disbelief, as if they suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Why weren't Mr. and Mrs. Song here to find fault with Guan Shushu? And what the hell is Master Jiang? Chapter 21. Is this industry also patriarchal? Noticing the strangeness on everyone's faces, the urgency on Song Yongming's face was almost visible. President Jiang, we really want to apologize to Master Jiang in person. Can you let us meet Master Jiang? Jiang Yuqing opened his mouth, seemingly taking a long while to recover, and said somewhat dumbly, "Shushu isn't here." Upon hearing this, the Song Yongming couple seemed flustered, repeatedly asking, "Is Master not back yet? When will she return? Perhaps we can wait for her here?" Inside the living room, a fleeting moment of awkwardness flashed across the faces of all the Jang family members upon hearing this. How were they supposed to say that Shushu had moved out, and she definitely wouldn't be back today? The Song Yongming couple were anxious. Seeing the Jiang family not speaking, they became even more anxious. President Jiang. Just as Jiang Yuqing was about to speak, Jiang Huai, who was beside him, stepped forward. "Shushu probably won't be back today. If Uncle Song and Aunt Song are in a hurry, perhaps I can contact Shushu for you first. If it's convenient for her, I can take you directly to find her." "That would be great." Song Yongming showed no intention of being polite at this moment. "Then I'll trouble you." Jiang Huai nodded with a smile, then turned and made a phone call to the side, quickly returning. "Shushu said she already knows your intentions. She is now heading to the Song family and will meet and talk there directly." Hearing that Shushu was willing to head directly to the Song family, Song Yongming and his wife were overjoyed. They didn't bother with pleasantries with the Jiang family, and were about to say goodbye. Seeing this, Jiang Huai followed them out directly. "I'll take you both back." Song Yongming understood that Jiang Huai was worried that his sister would be at a disadvantage in the Song family. With Yuli's condition being critical, he didn't pay attention to these things. It wasn't until the car slid into the night that the Jiang family belatedly reacted. The Song family is so anxious to find Shushu. Could it be that something happened to the Song family's young lady? The third wife of the third branch spoke uncertainly, her tone filled with obvious worry. Jiang Yuqing frowned, his face solemn. Something must have happened. Moreover, it was very likely the thing that Shushu had predicted. The villa area where the Song family was located was not close to Silver River No. 1. The car took more than half an hour to return to the Song family villa. When the three arrived, Shushu also happened to arrive at the door. Seeing the girl dressed in a t-shirt and jeans, even though Song Yongming had already heard from his wife about the age of the Jiang family's newly found eldest granddaughter, he still felt a hint of uncertainty about her overly young and well-behaved appearance. On the other hand, Mrs. Song, without her previous politeness and aloofness, had a fervent look in her eyes when she saw Shushu. "Master Jiang, I was being arbitrary about today's matter. Thank you for still being willing to come." Since Shushu had come, she was here to help solve the problem, and she didn't put on airs at all at this moment. "Let's go inside first." The Song couple immediately led Shushu inside without delay, explaining the situation of the day as they walked. Little pair would go for a walk and play in the children's recreation area of the residential complex every afternoon after her nap. "Master Mingming had reminded me this morning, but it's all my fault for not taking it seriously at the time. I still let little pair go out in the afternoon, and somehow little pair disappeared midway. At first I thought it was a kidnapping, but it was only a matter of 10 minutes before the security guard found her by the fountain. I thought it was just a false alarm, but soon after little pair got home, she suddenly fainted and couldn't be woken up no matter what we did. The family doctor couldn't find any cause after examining her." Mrs. Song paused here, her voice filled with anxiety and sadness, and then looked at Shushu later. When the doctor couldn't do anything, he prepared to send little pair to the hospital for a more detailed examination. But when he picked her up, he found something falling from her body. It was that thing that made Mrs. Song find Shushu again. It was the amulet that Shushu left behind when she left. At that time, Mrs. Song originally asked someone to throw it away, but unexpectedly, little pair thought it was fun and secretly picked it up and hid it on her body. As a result, that thing fell from her body. Mrs. Song and the servants didn't know what it was at first, because it was already a piece of black ash. The strange thing was that it had been burned into black ash, but it still retained its original shape. Later, the butler noticed it and reminded her. It seemed to be the amulet that Shushu left before she left. Because Shushu's amulets all have special folding methods, it's not difficult to see. Mrs. Song later had little pair's body checked, and found that she had no burns or scalds. Only the amulet that should have been folded with yellow paper had turned into black ash. Mrs. Song is a highly educated intellectual who believes in materialism, and doesn't believe in ghosts or gods, so she doesn't know anything about this kind of thing. It was Mrs. Song's mother-in-law who has recently believed in Taoism and knows some sayings, guessing that the yellow paper turned into ash because it blocked evil spirits, but little Pear is still unconscious, indicating that the evil spirits are still there, so Mrs. Song's mother-in-law said that she should invite a master. It was at this time that Mrs. Song thought of Guan Yushu again, and worried that she would hold a grudge for being kicked out today, and would not be willing to help, so she specially came to apologize. For the sake of their daughter's safety, the Song couple no longer care about face. Guan Yushu could see that the Song family's concern for Song Yuli was sincere, and she rarely spoke to reassure them. Don't worry, I said that Miss Song has a life of abundant fortune. Even if there is some loss now, it will protect her life. While Guan Yushu was speaking, the group had already walked up to the room on the second floor of the villa. Opening the door, they were greeted by a flame rushing straight towards their faces. The Song couple was suddenly shocked. Song Yongming subconsciously pulled his wife back, and Jiang Huai, who was walking behind, also subconsciously wanted to pull Guan Yushu behind him. However, before he could make any movement, he saw Guan Yushu raise his hand and wave. The oncoming tongue of fire suddenly disappeared without a trace. Before Song's parents could marvel at Guan Yushu's actions, they clearly saw the scene inside the room. They saw a ritual altar set up in Song Yuli's room at some point. In front of the altar stood a middle-aged man in a yellow Taoist robe. He was holding a wooden sword, chanting something, and occasionally slashing the sword in the air. The tongues of fire the group felt when they entered were an effect of his ritual. Even though he had suspected his daughter was haunted by something unclean, the obviously strange and mystical scene made the veins on Song Yongming's forehead throb uncontrollably. He turned his gaze to another old lady in the room and said helplessly, "Mom, what's going on?" The person in the room was the Song family's old lady who was said to be religious. The Song old lady was a somewhat plump, wealthy old lady. Hearing her son's words, she quickly stepped forward to explain. "Didn't we say that Lizzie ran into something dirty? I asked someone to invite a familiar master. Don't worry, the master said it's nothing serious. She'll wake up after he finishes the ritual, and maybe she'll even become smarter." Madame Song looked a little embarrassed. "Mom, didn't we say Yongming and I would invite the master? One thing shouldn't bother two masters." Even though Madame Song didn't understand the rules of the mystical world, she knew it wasn't good to invite two families to the door at once. The Song old lady didn't take it seriously. "What's wrong with asking a few more people to take a look together? If I didn't care about your precious girl, I wouldn't bother with this." As she spoke, she looked at Guan Shushu and Jiang Huai beside Madame Song with suspicion. She recognized Jiang Huai, the eldest grandson of the Jiang family, so the so-called master was definitely not him, which meant it was the little girl next to him. Frowning slightly, "This is the master you found? Why is she still a girl?" Her tone was full of disdain for the girl. Guan Shushu raised her eyebrows slightly. "How come this industry is now also patriarchal?" Chapter 22, Bluffing, She Can Do It Too. The more the Song old lady looked at Guan Shushu, the more suspicious she became. "She's so young. What can she do?" "Yuehua, have you been deceived again?" she said, looking at Madame Song, her eyes full of doubt. Madame Song's face was a little ugly. "Mom. Although Master Jiang is young, she is a person with real skills. Don't talk nonsense. Don't offend people." The Song old lady curled her lips, not believing that such a young girl could have any real skills. She's just relying on her mouth to fool people. What if her daughter-in-law, Yuehua, has high education? She's still not as good as her at judging people. Fortunately, she had invited other masters over in advance. Otherwise, relying on this little girl, she would have been too late. Sure enough, this family still has to rely on her. The old lady wanted to dampen the little girl's spirit and looked at Guan Shushu. "You say you have real skills, then you have to show them. It doesn't have to be much. At least you have to dance a sword like the master, right?" "Mom." Madame Song was really a little angry, afraid that the old lady's attitude would annoy Guan Shushu. She turned her head and quickly said to Guan Shushu, "Master Jiang, I'm truly sorry, please don't take it to heart." Guan Shushu didn't mind, nodded to Madame Song, and walked past the old lady and the performing master towards the bed. From the moment she entered, she could see Song Yuli lying on the bed. Despite the chaotic atmosphere in the room, she still showed no signs of waking up. Since the moment they entered, the master had been watching their movements out of the corner of his eye, but because he was still performing the ritual, he couldn't stop abruptly, so he pretended to be undisturbed by the outside world and continued his performance. It wasn't until he saw Shushu approach the bed that he suddenly shouted sternly, "Don't come closer. You'll interrupt my spell." Shushu glanced sideways at his words, then turned back, pulled over Song Yuli's finger, and examined it closely. Seeing that Shushu didn't take his warning seriously, the master immediately looked angry, abruptly stopped the ritual, and turned to Madame Song. "Madame Song, what is going on? Didn't I say not to let anyone disturb me during the ritual?" Madame Song also looked displeased and quickly said to the master, "Master Lu, I'm truly sorry. I'll have them leave immediately." As she spoke, she turned to glare at Shushu, about to tell her to leave, when she saw Shushu put down Song Yuli's hand and turned to look at Master Lu, her clear eyes devoid of emotion, only asking, "Master Lu is performing a ritual. I presume you've identified the problem with Miss Song?" Master Lu sneered at her question. "Miss Song has attracted a little ghost. I was trying to drive it away, but you interrupted my spell, and the little ghost took the opportunity to run away." The implication being that the failure of the ritual and Miss Song's inability to wake up were all her fault. Nothing to do with him. Shushu chuckled softly, looking at Master Lu with the eyes of someone looking at a con artist. "If you had the slightest sense, you would know that there's nothing sinister in this room. The reason Miss Song is unconscious isn't because she's being haunted by a little ghost, but because someone is using dark magic to steal her destiny." Hearing Shushu's words, Song Yongming and Madame Song's faces changed, and they hurried forward. "Master Jiang, what dark magic are you talking about? Is someone trying to take my Xiaoli's life?" Shushu then looked at the two and said, "Not take her life. In Xianmen terms, it's borrowing life." I said, "Miss Song has a very fortunate fate. Her fate dictates that she should have no disasters or difficulties in this life and live smoothly. That's why someone has taken a fancy to her fate and wants to borrow her lifespan to extend their own." As she spoke, she pulled over Song Yuli's hand, gesturing for the two to look at the faint red mark on the pad of her thumb. The cinnabar print on her finger is because someone tricked her into putting her fingerprint on it, thereby tacitly agreeing to the other party's act of borrowing life. As for when the fingerprint was made, it was probably during the 10 or so minutes that Madame Song said she went missing. Upon hearing this, Song Yongming and his wife leaned in for a closer look. Sure enough, they spotted a faint red mark, no more than a dot, on the pad of Song Yuli's finger. It was clear that the mark had been wiped, and would have been easily missed if not carefully examined. In the frantic rush to find help for their daughter after the incident, how could the couple have possibly noticed such a small detail? Grandma Song, hearing this, didn't believe it and also leaned in to take a look. Song Yongming, now no longer concerned about his elderly mother or the other master, wore a grim expression as he looked at Shushu. "Master, so my daughter's life has already been borrowed? Can it be retrieved?" Shushu looked at him and simply nodded, "Yes, it can." Master Lu, standing nearby, was disgruntled that she had managed to gain the employer's trust with just a few words. He was about to open his mouth to disparage her when someone suddenly approached him. It was the handsome young man who had entered with the Song family earlier. He had somehow moved to his side and now stood next to him, speaking softly. "Shut your mouth. If you say another word to my sister, I'll make sure you leave the Song residence feet first." His voice wasn't loud, and could even be described as gentle and pleasant, but the words he spoke sent a chill down one's spine. Master Lu felt a thump in his heart, and momentarily forgot what he wanted to say. It was at this moment that Shushu straightforwardly pulled out a thumb-sized brush dipped in cinnabar and a jade pendant from her backpack. With a stroke of the vermilion brush on the jade pendant, she gently placed the pendant on Song Yuli's forehead. Song Yongming and his wife stood by the bed. Whether it was their imagination or not, at the moment the jade pendant touched Song Yuli's forehead, they seemed to see a wisp of black gas flash across the pendant, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Shushu then took out a few yellow talisman papers from her backpack. Noticing Jiang Huai's small actions, Shushu subtly shifted her gaze, and also noticed the look of unwillingness and resentment on Master Lu's face. Recalling his earlier exaggerated movements, Guan Yushu didn't think such movements were particularly impressive, but everyone seemed to find such performances more convincing. Just now, Grandma Song seemed to have asked her to show her real skills. Guan Yushu thought for a moment. Although she couldn't dance, she could definitely put on a show to fool people. With that thought, she suddenly took a step back, the delicate and bright face instantly devoid of all emotion. Her entire demeanor abruptly changed, becoming sharp and focused. She raised her hands, palms facing each other. As her palms separated, the 5 yellow talismans originally held between them seemed to be abruptly drawn by an invisible force, standing upright in her palms, perfectly aligned. This single feat alone widened the eyes of everyone in the room, including Master Lu. Then they heard her pink lips part, her voice clear and melodious as a spring, yet carrying a sharp and imposing force. Heaven's way is clear, earth's way is peaceful, blending Qian and Kuan. All gods obey, I by decree break. With her final command, she pushed her palms outward, and the yellow talismans, which had been standing neatly in the air, flew straight towards Song Yuli on the bed with a whoosh. Chapter 23. Who hates her family so much? As if guided by invisible threads, 5 yellow talismans swished through the air and affixed themselves firmly to 5 points on Song Yuli's body. The moment the yellow talismans touched Song Yuli, everyone saw wisps of black smoke rising from the center of the talismans, as if they were being scorched. With a crack, the jade pendant that had been placed on Song Yuli's forehead broke in two. At the same time, in a small restaurant not far from the Song family's home, a middle-aged man was looking at the huge sum of money that had just been deposited into his account, a look of joy on his face. The next second, without any warning, he suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood, and then fell straight to the ground. Immediately after, screams erupted, and the restaurant descended into chaos. Inside the Song family villa, everyone was as quiet as a chicken, including Jiang Huai, their eyes filled with disbelief. Old Mrs. Song watched, almost forgetting to breathe. When she came to her senses, she cautiously reached out with a look of disbelief and touched the air above the jade pendant and the talismans, as if trying to confirm whether there was some invisible mechanism there. Otherwise, how could the talismans have stuck to her granddaughter's body so quickly? And how could the jade pendant have broken in two the moment the talismans emitted smoke? That was jade, after all. Mom. Seeing the old lady's actions, Song Yongming was a little displeased, but Master Lu, as if reminded, suddenly came back to his senses and shouted, "This is just an illusion. Don't be fooled, Madam Song. Those who come out to swindle people always have some skills of their own." Even the fire tongue he had just created had been specially practiced in private. He didn't believe that a young girl who looked like she had just come of age could really have any real ability. If she really was some kind of master, he would do a handstand and eat shit today. As Master Lu thought this, he saw the Song family members standing by the bed suddenly change their expressions, and even old Mrs. Song, who had just been reaching out to test the air, widened her eyes. Master Lu's heart skipped a beat for no reason. He looked closely and saw that the Song family's daughter, who had been sleeping soundly on the bed, had actually opened her eyes. "Awake, she's awake? Little Lear." Mrs. Song was the first to shout, her voice losing its usual elegance and composure, replaced by a clear sob. Song Yongming also approached with a look of tension. "Little Lear, how are you?" When Song Yuli opened her eyes, her face still wore the dazed look of someone who had just woken up. She murmured softly, "Mom? Dad? Oh, Grandma's here too." She obviously didn't understand why her parents and Grandma were all surrounding her bed, just because she had taken a nap. Looking around the room, Little Lear's eyes widened noticeably. There were so many people in her room. Her beautiful eyes darted around, and suddenly landed on Guan Shushu. Little Lear blinked, looking somewhat happy. "It's puppy sister." The people in the room were stunned, all looking bewildered, except for Mrs. Song, who looked embarrassed. "Little Lear, don't call her that. This is your Shushu sister." Little Pear giggled foolishly. Seeing that his little daughter was still the same as before, Song Yongming's originally tense expression instantly relaxed. "Master Jiang, is Little Pear all right now?" But Guan Kashu shook her head, and the Song couple's heart sank. Could it be that she wasn't completely healed? Guan Kashu only said, I just forcibly broke the other party's life-borrowing spell. The opposing sorcerer suffered a backlash and can't attack Miss Song for the time being. However, the other party tricked Miss Song into signing a life-borrowing contract, which we still need to find. The life-borrowing contract must be burned. Otherwise, once the other party finds another sorcerer, they can still recast the spell at any time through the contract to borrow life. Hearing that the other party would still attack Little Pear, the Song couple's hearts tightened instinctively. Madame Song even hugged Little Pear in her arms, trying to protect her. At this moment, Song Yongming had no doubts about Guan Kashu's abilities. Upon hearing this, his expression turned grave. I've already had people investigate the surveillance footage during the time Little Pear went missing, but we couldn't find anything. We can continue to send people to investigate, but I'm worried that we won't be able to find anything in time. And then the other party might have already found another sorcerer to re-borrow Little Pear's lifespan. He really didn't want to see Little Pear experience a second episode of unconsciousness. He pleaded, Master Jiang, is there any other way to find this harmful mastermind? Don't worry, as long as you can save my daughter, you can name your price. Guan Kashu thought for a moment, it's not impossible. As she spoke, she suddenly rummaged in her pocket and pulled out a white rabbit candy. Guan Kashu stepped forward and handed the white rabbit candy to Song Yuli on the bed. Seeing her eyes light up noticeably, she smiled slightly and coaxed her in a rare gentle tone. Little Pear, how about playing a game with your sister? Sister will treat you to candy. Song Yuli looked at the white rabbit candy, obviously wanting it, but she tilted her head and looked at her mother with a questioning gaze. Madame Song immediately nodded. Your sister is playing a game with you, Little Pear. Will you play with your sister for a while? Seeing that her mother didn't object, Song Yuli immediately curved her eyebrows, took the candy, and then nodded happily to Guan Kashu. Guan Kashu smiled lightly and took out a thin red string from her bag, tying one end of the red string to Little Pear's thumb, which was used for the contract. Then, she took out a small cinnabar brush again, and quickly drew a tiny rune on Little Pear's thumb. Everyone saw that. At the moment Guan Kashu finished writing, the rune on Song Yuli's thumb seemed to flash with golden light, and then swept across the red string on her hand. The next moment, the short red string seemed to be pulled by something, standing straight up in one direction. The people in the room widened their eyes again in surprise. Little Pear's eyes widened even more, and then she exclaimed in amazement, Wow, I have magic! Guan Shushu slightly curved the corners of her lips, gesturing to her. Then Little Pear, get up now and follow the direction the red string points. Magic will guide you to a surprise. Little Pear's eyes immediately lit up again, and without thinking about anything else, she eagerly prepared to set off. Upon seeing this, Song Yongming and his wife immediately understood what was happening and quickly followed, while simultaneously ordering all the bodyguards on standby in the villa to follow along. He would find the person who dared to harm his Little Pear, and make them pay the price. The group headed downstairs in that manner. Not knowing where they would end up, Song Yongming directly ordered someone to prepare a car, but he suddenly heard Guan Shushu speak. No need to prepare a car, just a small vehicle for transportation will do. Madame Song was puzzled, and Guan Shushu explained. Generally, the spell of borrowing life often involves sealing red envelopes containing one's own hair with money and scattering them on the road. Anyone who picks it up and spends the money will unknowingly have their lifespan borrowed. This type belongs to a wide net approach. Generally, not much lifespan can be borrowed this way, and the person whose life is being borrowed may not even notice. However, Miss Song was clearly specifically targeted, and a contract method was used. This suggests that the person should know Little Pear. The moment Guan Shushu finished speaking, Madame Song gasped sharply, and in the next second, her eyes instantly turned red. Her Little Pear had already lived a harder life than others due to a sudden injury in childhood that left her mentally challenged. How could someone specifically target her lifespan? As if her Little Pear wasn't pitiful enough. Who could have such a big grudge against her Little Pear? Not even sparing a mentally challenged child. Song Yongming, who was standing beside her, also showed a hint of cold and sinister look on his usually gentle face. In an instant, he had gone through all the enemies his family had offended. Chapter 24. The Notorious Socialite. Seeing Song Yongming's expression, Shueshi reminded him again. Miss Song has been missing for about 10 minutes, so it can be basically determined that the other party acted within the villa area. That person should also live in this area. With this, the scope was basically narrowed down to the smallest range. Song Yongming was in a quandary. They had lived in this villa area for 5 or 6 years. Because it was a high-end type of house, there were not many residents in the community, and he had basically met them all. However, the Song family did not seem to have offended anyone. Just as he was thinking this, he saw a patrol car stopping in front of the Song family villa, and a person from the leading car walked straight towards them. Before Little Pear's accident, I had already investigated the suspicious families in the community. It shouldn't be someone who has a grudge against the Song family. The man's voice was gentle with a hint of coldness. Under the light, one could see his handsome features similar to Song Yongming, and his figure was slender and upright as he quietly looked at Shushu. Obviously, this was another son of the Song family, Song Yuli's older brother, Song Yuli. Song Yuli was not originally called Song Yuli, because she was too attached to Song Yuli when she was a child, and wanted everything to be the same as her brother, even her name. The family had no choice but to change her name to this similar one. Song Yuli had been busy outside since Xylier's accident. Although he didn't have high hopes when he learned that his parents had invited Miss Jang from the Jang family over, he had been keeping in touch with his family, and therefore knew everything that had happened. However, he was still slightly surprised when he saw Shushu. He knew that she was Jiang Huai's younger sister, but he didn't expect her to look so young. Jiang Huai, who had been by Shushu's side, also saw Song Yuli at this time. Although the two families had some connections, he was not very familiar with Song Yuli, so he just nodded as a greeting. Xylier was obviously very happy to see her brother return. She wanted to rush over and hug him, but she was worried about the magic on her hands being destroyed, so she looked at her brother expectantly while cautiously approaching him with small steps. Seeing that Xylier was okay, Song Yuli's expression visibly softened, but he also knew that things were not over yet, so he invited everyone to get in the cars. A convoy of 7 patrol cars, almost all of the patrol cars from the property management, were borrowed. The convoy drove majestically through the villa area. Soon, guided by the red string, the group finally stopped in front of a 4-story villa. The moment she saw the place, Madame Song simply couldn't believe it. How could it be here? Seeing that Madame Song recognized the place, Shushu simply turned to look at her. Madame Song immediately gritted her teeth and said, "This is the Pei family. Originally, our two families didn't have much interaction, but the Pei family's child is one of the few children in the neighborhood who is willing to play with Xylier. Xylier, after all, has the appearance of an adult. Other children despise her for being foolish and are unwilling to play with her, but the Pei family's little boy has never minded, and has taken the initiative to come over to find Xylier to play together several times. Because of this, the two families are quite close, and the Song family has even introduced some business to the Pei family to express their gratitude." Madame Song never expected that it would be this family that wanted her Xylier's life. How could it not be chilling? Has the Pei family recently had an elderly person or someone else who has fallen ill? Shushu suddenly asked, adding, "Someone who is about to die." "The Pei family's old lady has always been in good health," Madame Song murmured, then suddenly said, "But the child who plays with Xylier was said to have contracted some illness and was sent to the hospital some time ago." Shushu understood upon hearing this. The Pei family borrowed a life, probably for that child. The Song family obviously understood what was going on, and immediately went forward to knock on the Pei family's door, regardless of the consequences. It was already late, and the Song family still came over with such a large group of people. The Pei family's madam couldn't help but ask when she saw them, "Yuehua, what's going on? Why did you bring so many people over?" Madame Song, at this moment, was convinced that the Pei family had harmed her Xylier, so she had no mood to exchange pleasantries with her, and immediately sneered, "You don't know what's going on? Your family found someone to harm my Xylier, wanting to borrow my Xylier's life to extend your Haohao's life. Do you really think no one would find out?" Hearing this, a fleeting look of panic crossed Madame Pei's eyes, but she quickly concealed it, feigning ignorance and indignation. "What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're saying. What life borrowing? How could I possibly harm your little pair? How can you believe those unfounded guesses and bring people to my house? This is outrageous. Madame Song saw through her expression change and didn't bother wasting words with her. The most important thing now was to destroy that life-borrowing contract that her little pair had signed. Little pair, let's go in and find it. Little pair wasn't unfamiliar with the Pei family. Hearing her mother say to go in, she excitedly raised her hand, wanting to go inside. Madame Pei then saw the strange, vertical red line on little pair's hand. Realizing something, her face changed and she shrieked. What are you doing? Are you trying to break into a private residence? Today we're just breaking in, Madame Song said, raising her hand. The Song family's bodyguards, already prepared, immediately stepped forward in a disciplined manner, directly blocking the others in the house. Seeing this, Madame Song and little pair quickly followed the red string. Heading inside, and following the direction, they directly found a room on the second floor. Opening a drawer, they indeed found a life-borrowing contract written on red paper hidden in the room. They took it and left. Madame Pei was downstairs, anxiously making a phone call. Seeing Madame Song and the others coming downstairs with something in their hands, her face changed drastically. She never expected that they would actually find this thing. She shrieked and tried to pounce forward to snatch it. Give it back to me. How could Song Yuli let her get close? He immediately stepped forward, grabbed her, and pushed her, knocking Madame Pei to the ground. Madame Song was also afraid it would be snatched back, so she turned and went to the kitchen, turned on the gas stove, and burned the life-borrowing contract. Seeing her action, Madame Pei's eyes widened with fury. Disregarding her image, she cried out and tried to rush forward to stop her again. However, the thing was already burning. Madame Song threw the half-burned life-borrowing contract into the sink. Turning around, the moment Madame Pei rushed in front of her, she slapped her hard across the face. With a crisp smack, Madame Pei hadn't even reacted when she was slapped. Madame Song didn't stop there, grabbing the other woman's hair and slapping her again and again. At this moment, Madame Song's face no longer held the elegance and poise of a wealthy woman. Thinking about how the Pei family had schemed against her daughter, she wanted to swallow them whole. You schemed against my daughter. You used evil magic to harm people. How did my pair offend you that you would harm her like this? She's just a child, woo-woo. The grievances suffered over the years because of little pair's mental disability, and the anxiety and fear of this entire day, seemed to explode completely at this moment. Madame Song cried and beat Madame Pei, completely disregarding her upbringing and the decorum of the upper class, looking every bit like a shrew. For a mother, her child is her greatest weakness. If you dare touch my child, I'll show you what a high society shrew is capable of. Chapter 25. A fool is better off dead. Madame Pei had never seen Madame Song like this, and neither had Song Yongming or Song Yuli ever seen their wife-mother like this. In the past, Madame Song had always been the picture of an intellectual and elegant lady, and even if someone upset her, she would maintain her upbringing and not argue with them. But now, her hair was disheveled, her clothes and necklace were askew, and she looked like an angry lioness, making people afraid to approach her easily. Song Yuli seemed to be frightened by her own mother as well, and immediately forgot about the magic game, bursting into tears with a wail. Wow, mommy. Mommy. It was this cry that seemed to instantly awaken Madame Song's rationality. She finally released Madame Pei's hand and turned around, staggering back to Song Yuli's side. She opened her arms and hugged her tightly, coaxing her in a trembling voice. Don't cry, Xiaolier, mommy, Xiaolier, don't cry. Woo, mommy, don't fight, woo. Mommy won't fight, mommy scared Xiaolier. It's all mommy's fault, mommy didn't protect you. As she spoke, tears slid down her face uncontrollably again, and she hugged the crying Xiaolier, sobbing softly. Song Yongming and Song Yuli couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness when they saw the two mothers and daughters crying together. Their hearts felt as if they were blocked by something, and their eyes were filled with a chilling coldness when they looked at Madame Pei again. Madame Pei was dizzy from the beating, and one side of her face was already rapidly swelling and red. It took her a long time to recover, but seeing the two mothers and daughters crying together made her even angrier. She was the one who was beaten, and she hadn't even cried yet. Why do you have to cry? Just then, Old Madame Pei and Madame Pei's husband finally rushed back. They were furious when they saw the scene upon entering the door. What are you Song family doing? Call the police. I'm calling the police. Song Yongming wasn't comfortable laying his hands on a woman earlier, but now that he saw President Pei, he sneered and stepped forward. Go ahead and call the police. At most, I'll compensate you with some money, but if your Pei family uses evil magic to harm my daughter, our Song family will use all our connections to make your Pei family pay the price. Hearing Song Yongming speak so confidently about the evil magic, Pei Guodong's heart skipped a beat. He subconsciously looked at his wife, only to see her crying with half of her face swollen like a pig's head. They burned the life-borrowing scroll. Woo woo woo, my how. Hearing that the Song family had not only found out the truth, but had even found and burned the life-borrowing scroll, Pei Guodong felt as if he had collapsed in an instant. Old Madame Pei's eyes widened even more, looking as if the sky had fallen. She first scolded Madame Pei. You useless thing, you can't even take care of something. Then she started wailing. How could you burn my Haohao's life book? That's my Haohao's life. The Song family is so vicious, wah? Song Yongming and the others never expected that this person would be able to make a false accusation after being exposed in person, and their cheek muscles trembled with anger. Just as they were about to say something, they saw old Mrs. Song rushing out from somewhere and spitting at the other old lady. Tui, you were the ones who plotted against my granddaughter, and you dare to say we're vicious. You old hag, your heart is truly black. Old Mrs. Pei stubbornly stuck out her neck, without a hint of guilt on her face. Anyway, your granddaughter is an idiot. What's the use of an idiot living? It's better to give her lifespan to my good grandson. My good grandson is such a smart child. How could he suddenly not live long? Madame Pei also rushed over, but she pleaded toward Song Yuli. Little liar, Auntie has no choice. Your Haohao brother is sick, and he has to live. For the sake of him being willing to play with you before, can you help him? Auntie doesn't need much, 50 years will do. Madame Song was about to explode with anger at the shameless remarks of this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. What does she mean her daughter is stupid and useless alive? Does her daughter deserve to die young just because she's stupid? And 50 years will do. A normal person's life is at most 250 years. Just because of the friendship of playing together, she wants her daughter's 50 years of life. How can she be so shameless to ask? Madame Song really wished she could give her another 50 slaps. But she couldn't spare her hand at this moment. Because the moment Madame Pei opened her mouth, she had already reached out and covered her daughter's ears. But she couldn't spare her hand, but Song Yuli could. At this moment he didn't care about the rule that men shouldn't hit women, and he stepped forward and grabbed Madame Pei, dragging her away from his sister's sight. Looking at such a face, he was afraid that his sister would have nightmares at night. Fortunately, the life-borrowing book had already been burned, and the Song family didn't want to stay and see the disgusting faces of the Pei family. The Song family's bodyguards immediately escorted them away. Just before leaving, Shushu deliberately walked behind, turned her head, and gave a slight smile to the Pei family, who had a resentful and hateful look on their faces. Evil magic harms people, and those who cast it cannot escape the backlash. You as the masterminds cannot escape either. In the next 3 years, the Pei family will have no luck and will be plagued by bad luck. Saying that, she didn't care about the Pei family's ugly faces, and added directly, this is a word of advice, no extra charge. Jiang Huai stood aside, watching his sister seriously add the last sentence, and only found it funny. This sister not only seems to have real skills, and it seems, she also likes to make money a little bit. Jiang Huai instantly felt relieved. The Jiang family has the most money. The group returned to the Song family in a mighty manner. As soon as they entered the door, Little Liar seemed to have lost her energy, leaning softly in Madame Song's arms, and hummed in a low voice, Mom, Little Liar is hungry. Seeing that Xiao Lier was unwell, the Song family immediately became nervous again and asked, Master Jiang, is there anything else wrong with Xiao Lier? Guan Quanxu said, don't worry, it's just a little sequelae from stealing her fate. It's not a big problem. Just give her some energy, and let her bask in the sun more during the day. Hearing that she was fine, the Song family instantly breathed a sigh of relief. They now deeply believed in Guan Quanxu's words. If she said it was okay, then it must be okay. Just as they were about to show a slight relieved smile, they heard Guan Quanxu say in the next second, "She needs to recover her energy these 2 days. In a couple of days, I will come back to help her exchange back the lost wit." She said it casually, but it made the Song family stiffen, as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. "Master Jiang, what do you mean by exchanging wit? Are you saying that my Xiaoli, Song Yongming, a businessman who had galloped in the business world, was now so nervous that he stuttered a little?" Guan Quanxu glanced at the equally stunned Madame Song beside her, and just blinked her eyes. "I remember mentioning it to Madame Song before." Chapter 26, 3 million labor fee. Miss Song was supposed to have a life full of blessings, but it was because someone stole her wit when she was young that she became like this now, which also led to changes in her fate. Guan Quanxu patiently explained it to the Song family father and son again, and explained, "Actually, I came to your door before to help Miss Song exchange back her wit." Madame Song couldn't hear her explanation behind her, and nodded hurriedly, her voice trembling. Yes, Master Jiang did say that. I forgot at the time." As she said this, she suddenly grabbed Guan Quanxu's hand, her eyes reddened, and her face was full of excitement. "Master Jiang, does that mean, as long as we exchange back that wit, my Shaolier will be like a normal person?" "That's right." At the moment the words fell, Madame Song's tears flowed down again, and Song Yongming and Song Yuli beside her also showed excitement. In addition to their excitement, they also felt a little guilty. Master Jiang is such a good person. She specially came to help, but she was kicked out by the family. Not only kicked out, but because Shaolier suddenly fainted, he called President Jiang to question her. Even so, the master didn't care and rushed over as soon as she heard that Shaolier had an accident. The Song family was so ashamed. It was the kind of shame and regret that made them have to set an alarm clock every night to slap themselves in the face. Thank you, Master Jiang. Thank you so much." Madame Song was already sobbing with excitement. Over the years, she had already given up hope. She had long made up her mind that even if Shaolier was like this for the rest of her life, she would take care of her for the rest of her life. But the Pei family's words today really pierced her heart. Because her child was stupid, those people thought she didn't care and put their ideas on her. Madame Song was really a little overwhelmed. But now, Master Jiang said that her Shaolier could get better. She can still grow up like a normal person. Guan Shushu had seen Madame Song lose her composure and act fiercely for her child. Seeing her emotional tears again, she felt a faint stirring in her heart. She had never experienced a mother's love for her child, and perhaps she never would. But watching Madame Song, she vaguely understood what kind of emotion it was. Her lips twitched slightly, and Guan Shushu quietly waited for the Song family to calm down before suggesting to leave. After all the commotion tonight, it was indeed getting late. Song Yongming calmed down and finally regained his composure and steadiness, and asked about the reward for today. One thing is another, today Master Jiang took action to save his child, and his family must show sincerity. This was also to leave a good impression, so that it would be convenient to change her daughter Shaolier's intelligence in 2 days. Speaking of the reward, Guan Shushu straightened up slightly. It was finally time to collect money. Normally, she charged 30,000 for each intervention, but considering the effort spent on breaking the life-borrowing technique, and the jade pendant she broke when she blocked the technique, Guan Shushu thought for a moment, and seriously held out 3 fingers towards Song Yongming. 300,000. 3 million, no problem. Song Yongming nodded without the slightest hesitation, and took out his mobile phone to transfer the money to her face-to-face. Guan Shushu was stunned at first, and when she reacted, 3 million had already been credited to her account. Looking at the string of zeros displayed on her mobile phone, Guan Shushu's almond-shaped eyes widened slightly. She swallowed silently, and when she looked up again, she had a calm expression. 3 days later, I will come again to change Miss Song's intelligence. Guan Shushu's face was calm and composed, but the little tail in her heart was already wagging high. 3 million, she was rich. Sure enough, taking the initiative was the right thing to do. She really hoped that more orders like this would come, so that Guan's family's support fees could be collected quickly. Thinking that she would soon be able to completely sever ties with the Guan family in all aspects, Guan Shushu's footsteps were much lighter when she went out. Jiang Huai had already noticed the obvious soaring look in her eyes when she saw the money credited to her account. And the smile on the corner of his mouth was deep, but he didn't expose this little money grubber. Looking at her current appearance, she had obviously forgotten the unpleasantness at the Jiang family today. Thinking of this, his peach blossom eyes darkened slightly, and he suddenly opened his mouth. Shushu, I'm sorry. Guan Shushu tilted her head to look at Jiang Huai, and heard him say, although I had seen your ability to ferret out Aunt Wu before, I didn't completely believe that you could solve the Song family's matter. So I didn't say anything when Dad didn't let you interfere with the Song family's matter. As your brother, I apologize for this. As he said this, he looked at Guan Shushu, his peach blossom eyes filled with a gentle smile. But I am now sure that my sister is really amazing. Hearing Jiang Huai's initiative to apologize and praise her, Guan Shushu's eyebrows curved slightly, and she looked obviously happy. Seeing her happy, Jiang Huai's heart softened. But thinking about Shushu's abilities, it seemed that he had to seriously revise his future plans for Shushu. He originally thought she was short of money. Now seeing her earn 3 million in one go, he thought he was still narrow-minded. However, the child's ability to earn money is their own, and the brother's allowance cannot be reduced. Thinking of the 300,000 given yesterday, it suddenly felt inadequate. So after sending her back to her apartment, Jiang Huai transferred another 3 million to her. Guan Shushu had just transferred out 1.5 million and was about to put down her phone when she received another notification of 3 million arriving. Guan Shushu was dumbfounded. How could the money she just sent out come back doubled? Did her master secretly send 5 ghosts to transport wealth to her? Looking closely again. Oh, it was her brother who gave it. With such a generous brother, it seems she's not earning enough. The Song family. After seeing off Guan Shushu and Jiang Huai, and coaxing Song Yuli to sleep, Song Yongming and his wife finally relaxed. It was at this moment, when they calmed down, that they recalled the situation at the Jiang family's house today. The Jiang family's attitude seemed a bit suspicious. From what I saw, Master Jiang doesn't seem to live at the Jiang family's house. Didn't they just say they recognized her back home? The Jiang family has a complicated population. Master Jiang's life in the Jiang family is probably not as easy as outsiders think. But she's the Jiang family's biological child. After finally finding her, how could they bear to let her suffer? Madame Song said with some dissatisfaction. She now absolutely admired Guan Shushu, especially after hearing that she could help her little Yuli recover. Song Yongming shook his head. We outsiders can't interfere in the Jiang family's affairs. After a pause, he narrowed his eyes slightly, but if the Jiang family knows Master Jiang's true abilities, they will probably regret it. Not just the Jiang family, but also the Guan family who raised Master Jiang. Although he hadn't deliberately inquired, he had heard about the Jiang family withdrawing from the project with the Guan family. The Guan family raised the Jiang family's child, so logically, they should have taken off, but the two families had no contact at all, which was very intriguing. Regardless of what the Jiang family does, our family must not be disrespectful to Master Jiang in the future. Master Jiang is their family's benefactor. Anyone who dares to go against Master Jiang is going against the Song family. Madame Song also agreed very much. I heard that the Jiang family is preparing a welcome banquet for Master Jiang. I will bring generous gifts when the time comes. Chapter 27. Worse than bad. Jiang family villa. After seeing off the Song family couple, Aunt Jiang also mentioned the banquet originally planned for tomorrow. That banquet was originally prepared specifically for Shushu's return home, to formally introduce her to people in the circle. But she ran away, and they don't know if tomorrow's banquet can still be held. They all silently turned their attention to old Master Jiang, wanting him to make a decision. Old Master Jiang only narrowed his eyes slightly, then opened his mouth. The banquet will continue as planned. He looked at Jiang Su and the other younger ones. You guys personally go to her door tomorrow and coax your sister back. If you can't coax Shushu back, none of you need to come back either. Jiang Su and the others widened their eyes in disbelief when they heard this, unable to believe that Grandpa could say such a thing. Could it be that Guan Shushu, a granddaughter he had only met a few times, was more important than his 3 grandsons? Moreover, Jiangsu was one thing, but Jiang Han was the same age as Guan Shushu, and Jiang Cheng was older than Guan Shushu. Did they not have any pride, being asked to apologize to Guan Shushu? Even now they still didn't feel like they had done anything wrong. They were a family, and she was making a big deal out of a simple argument that led to her leaving home. She thought so in her heart, but didn't dare show it on her face. Just as she was about to speak, she heard Jiang Yuqing beside her say, "I'll go with them to see Shushu tomorrow." Jiang Yuqing always remembered the look in Shushu's eyes when she said she was moving out. Especially since Jiang Huai had specifically mentioned that it was the room he and his wife had prepared for Shushu, and he was asking her to give up the room that had finally found its owner. At that time, Shushu must have been disappointed in him. Over the years he had focused on his work, and Jiang Huai had been excellent since he was a child, so he had never had to worry about him. Therefore, when Shushu came home, he didn't pay special attention to her or make any arrangements. It wasn't until Jiang Huai reminded him that he realized he didn't know how to raise children at all. This time he had to make up for it properly. Fortunately, Jiang Yuqing looked stern and cold on the outside, but he didn't have any old-fashioned machismo. He didn't think that he, as an elder, shouldn't apologize to a younger person. In his opinion, if you did something wrong, you should admit it and try your best to make up for it. What's more, she was the daughter he had been neglecting for 18 years. So the next day, Guan Shushu had just woken up when she saw 4 people standing outside her door. Each of them was tall and upright, standing at the door as if blocking a mountain in front of her. It was then that she suddenly understood why Jiang Huai had suddenly sent her back to her rental house last night. He knew they were coming. "Shushu, you live here?" Jiang Yuqing was a little incredulous when he got the address from Jiang Huai. He originally thought that even if Jiang Huai let Shushu leave, he would settle her down, but Shushu was actually living in this kind of place? Guan Shushu glanced at Jiang Yuqing and the 3 people behind him with complex expressions, pursed her lips, and silently opened the door. "Come in." Guan Shushu's living room wasn't big. When Jiang Yuqing and the other 3 big men entered, it almost felt like they were filling the entire living room. The expressions of Jiang Su and the others instantly became even more complicated. The residential area where Guan Shushu rented her apartment was a mid-range one. Most of the residents were recent graduates and white-collar workers. The environment wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. What was considered average in the eyes of ordinary people was, in the eyes of Jiang Su and the other young masters who had been pampered since childhood, simply terrible. And this living room wasn't even as big as their bedrooms at home. How could Guan Shushu live in a place like this? Even if you were looking for a place temporarily, you didn't have to find such a shabby place. It's not like the family doesn't have money. Jiang Han frowned, determined that this was just a trick by Guan Shushu. She wanted to make them feel guilty. No way. Guan Shushu only glanced at him indifferently, ignoring him. Jiang Han wanted to say something seeing her attitude, but suddenly a snow-white chubby fox jumped out of the pet house in the corner and burrowed in front of Guan Shushu. Only then did they notice the pet house and toys in the corner of the living room. Judging by the wear and tear, it was obvious that someone had been living in this house for a while. How could they not understand that this was Guan Shushu's house? Jiang Su, being straightforward, couldn't help but ask directly, "Didn't you always live in the Guan family before? Why are you renting a house here alone? Did they kick you out before?" There was obvious anger in Jiang Su's voice. Even though he did reject this so-called cousin coming home, his rejection was his rejection. After all, she was also the young lady of his Jiang family. It was not up to outsiders to mistreat his Jiang family's young lady like this. Jiang Han and Jiang Cheng also looked a little unsightly. They felt that the Guan family was slapping the Jiang family in the face. Guan Shushu only felt that the attitudes of these 3 brothers had changed inexplicably. Yesterday they didn't give her the time of day, but now, what was with this tone of defending her? "The Guan family doesn't allow pets, so I rented this place to raise foxes." Guan Shushu said the last 3 words very slowly, her eyes fixed on the 3 Jiangsu brothers. Jiangsu and the others suddenly remembered that they had pointed at her yesterday morning, not allowing her to keep a fox at home. For a moment, their expressions were a bit indescribable. Jiang Yuqing also heard about Shushu wanting to keep a fox at home from Jiang Huai, and immediately said, Jiang Huai has already prepared the pet house for the fox. You can keep it directly at home. I guarantee that no one at home will have any objections about this matter. No need, it's fine for it to live here. Guan Shushu said, pausing for a moment, and said lightly, it's also used to it. The it referred to the little fox, but it also seemed to refer to herself. Jiang Yuqing only felt a strange ache in his heart. Having seen by Shuqing's true colors, he should have guessed that Shushu was not living as well as they had imagined in the Guan family. They assumed that the Guan family was also a wealthy family, and concluded that Shushu was also a pampered child in the Guan family, but they forgot that Shushu was not a child of the Guan family. How could the Guan family truly love a child who was not their own? Thinking of this, Jiang Yuqing regretted what he had said yesterday even more. Shushu, Dad was wrong about yesterday's matter. Dad apologizes to you. Can you forgive Dad? Guan Shushu was slightly stunned when she heard this. She had already guessed that Jiang Huai had asked them to come to the rental house to make her sell miserably. She was not the kind of person who would blindly endure and compromise, but she hadn't started selling yet. Why was he apologizing all of a sudden? Seeing Jiang Yuqing, a man who could command the wind and rain outside, bowing his head to her without hesitation at this time, Guan Shushu didn't feel good in her heart. Everyone thought she was just saying angry words yesterday, but she knew that was her true intention. Seeming to sigh silently, Guan Shushu only said, I wasn't angry with you, let alone forgive you. You don't need to apologize to me. After a pause, she added, I'm already an adult and can live independently. You don't need to worry about me. I'm only living out here because I want to. The implication was that she wouldn't go back. Jiang Yuqing frowned slightly upon hearing this, and was about to speak when Jiang Han next to him muttered softly, So I'm also an adult. If I don't live out here, is it because I don't want to? It's just that the family won't let me. Chapter 28. The Unique Miss Jiang. Every child in the Jiang family has millions of yuan in lucky money. Buying a house and moving out is just a matter of swiping a card. But the three branches of the Jiang family still live together to this day. Isn't that all because Grandpa won't let them move out? Hearing this, he was actually a little envious of how Guan Shushu managed it. Jiang Yuqing was unaware of the restlessness in his nephew's hearts. Seeing that Guan Shushu wouldn't budge, he had already anticipated this and made plans before coming. If you really don't want to go home, that's fine. Dad had someone buy a villa in Dongyuan last night. If you're willing, our branch can just move there to live. We referring to him, Guan Shushu and Jiang Huai. By moving out, the other children in the family wouldn't be able to give her a hard time anymore. And he and Shushu could take this opportunity to salvage some of their father-daughter relationship. Jiang Yuqing said these words earnestly, startling Jiang Su and the other two, who had been secretly planning to get a house outside to live in secretly. Jiang Yuqing had said last night that he would take the main branch out to live, but they thought their uncle was just saying it in anger to scare them. This. How could he be serious? And he had already bought the house. Guan Shushu obviously didn't expect Jiang Yuqing to say such a thing. After all, when Jiang Huai brought her home, he said that the Jiang family's rule was that the family shouldn't be divided while the parents were still alive. Although Guan Shushu was recognized back into the Jiang family, she hadn't considered this rule when she decided to move out. But she never thought of making the Jiang family do anything about it. But Jiang Yuqing's current plan was clearly for her sake. Guan Shushu couldn't bring herself to say anything strong to refuse. You don't have to do this. She said, you don't owe me anything. Similarly, she didn't owe him anything either. Jiang Yuqing's heart ached when he heard her calm tone. No, he did owe her. He owed her 18 years. I know it's pointless to talk about making up for it now. But Shushu, from today onwards, Dad and your brother will give you a home again, okay? A home that belongs only to you. Jiang Yuqing's tone was gentler than ever before, and there was even a hint of pleading in his voice. Guan Shushu felt a slight tremor in her heart, and her hands clenched tighter at her sides. Seeing that she wouldn't agree, Jiang Yuqing composed himself and spoke again. If you really don't want to, Dad can also move over. As soon as Jiang Yuqing said this, not only Guan Shushu, but also the three Jiangs next to her had an expression of disbelief. Is Dad going crazy? Jiang Yuqing ignored their gazes and examined the house before him. This house is too small. I'll have your brother buy the two next door, and then knock them through. He was seriously planning it. The three Jiangs were about to stop their uncle, when Jiang Shushu finally spoke. I'll move back. Her voice was calm, with a hint of helplessness. She never thought of forcing Jiang Yuqing to do anything, but when he really went this far, she realized that she wasn't as indifferent as she thought she was. She was still touched by this person called Dad. More importantly, she had already seen Jiang Yuqing's attitude towards her. He was willing to give up some things for her, and that was enough for her. Besides, she didn't want to be the one who split the Jiang family. Anyway, she was only going back for 2 months. After 2 months, she would be going to college. Guan Shushu's obedient concession, even without demanding an apology from Jiangsu and the others, was something they hadn't expected. After all, before coming, they had all imagined how Guan Shushu would put on airs and force them to apologize to her. They were quite unhappy about it. But now she wasn't making demands. They seemed a little unhappy. It made it seem like they were dispensable to her. It was just very annoying. Guan Shushu followed them back to the Jiang family again. This time, Jiangsu and the others didn't dare to glare at her anymore, mainly because they didn't want her to go back to that small, broken rental house. It would be a disgrace to the Jiang family. Even Jiang Ying, the youngest, had obviously been severely educated. She greeted Guan Shushu obediently when she saw her return. Just as Jiang Huai had said before, when you are treated unfairly at the beginning, you must decisively show your attitude, let them know your temper, so that they will not dare to provoke you easily in the future. Jiang Huai was standing at the door when Guan Shushu arrived home, looking at her with a smile, just like the first time he saw her that day. Shushu, welcome home. Shueshi was also waiting in the hall, and immediately stepped forward when she saw her, with a friendly attitude. Shushu, it's good that you're back. Grandpa has already sent out invitations to all the families in advance for tonight's banquet. If you didn't come back, everyone wouldn't know what to do. Shueshi's voice was clear and melodious, but her words clearly implied that everyone was coaxing you back not because they really wanted you back, but to avoid being rude at tonight's banquet. If someone was sensitive, they might start to overthink at this moment. Guan Shushu swept her gaze coldly over Shueshi, and after a long while, the corners of her mouth suddenly curved slightly. It's just a banquet. If it can't be held today, it can be held tomorrow. Outsiders won't stop recognizing me as the Jiang family's daughter just because this banquet wasn't held. Saying that, she didn't forget to cue Jiang Huai on the side. Brother, is that right? The smile in Jiang Huai's eyes almost overflowed. And at this moment, of course, he echoed with a smile, of course, you are the Jiang family's daughter, unique and irreplaceable. The implication behind those words was obvious. Shueshi's beautiful face paled slightly for a moment, but she quickly recovered, her smile as usual. Brother Jiang Huai is right. Jiang Ying, standing beside them, pouted with a bit of grievance. She wanted to lash out but was afraid of angering her uncle, so she could only look up at her mother next to her with a pitiful expression, pointing at herself. Her expression seemed to be asking, Guan Shushu is the unique Miss Jiang. What about me? Yaolin. The stylist is already waiting upstairs. Shushu, go upstairs and try on the dresses. Tonight is your first appearance as Miss Jiang, so it must be grand. The third aunt smiled and greeted her from the side, and Jiang Yuqing also showed a rare gentle look, as if eager to see his child wearing new clothes, beckoning her, go ahead. The dresses and jewelry prepared for Guan Shushu were arranged by Jiang Yusin long ago. Jiang Yusin has many connections in the fashion industry, and she directly took 3 sets of haute couture dresses that had not yet been released for her to choose from, along with matching high heels and complete sets of haute couture jewelry. Guan Shushu had also attended some banquets with the Guan family, so she was no stranger to these procedures. She quickly chose a black and white one-shoulder-long fishtail dress. The moment she stepped out after her makeup was done, even Jiangsu and others, who had never thought highly of her, couldn't help but stare. The black one-shoulder dress was elegant and dignified on the upper body, and the lower body was a short front and long back large skirt. The short front was covered with handmade white camellias made of black gauze, adding a touch of brilliant beauty to the originally serious and dignified dress. Shueshi was tall and slender, with snow-white skin that shone brightly. At this time, set off by the black dress, she looked even more like creamy jade. The one-shoulder style perfectly showcased her beautiful collarbones and round, delicate shoulders. A ribbon adorned with white camellias was tied around her slender and beautiful neck, corresponding to the skirt, and her head was adorned with pearls, understated yet luxurious. In just one glance, all the Jang family members were stunned on the spot. They forgot to speak, and they just watched quietly. Even their breathing seemed to lighten. The Shushu in front of them was like the most beautiful white camellia blooming in the mountains, pure and flawless. She grew silently when no one noticed, and today, she was finally going to bloom in the Jang family with the most beautiful appearance. Chapter 29, The Opening. After Shueshi learned that Shushu had chosen a black, large-skirted dress, she directly chose a white ostrich feather diva dress, which made her originally beautiful and delicate appearance even more pure and elegant. Jiangsu and his brothers were obviously amazed by Shushu's look just now, but they couldn't praise her openly, for fear of making her arrogant. Seeing Shueshi at this moment, they immediately had no worries, enthusiastically gathered around her, and showered her with flattering words. Shueshi was like the real princess of the Jang family, her eyes glancing over Shushu on the side, subtly carrying a bit of complacency and showiness. Shushu didn't even glance this way, instead discussing with the stylist about a simple hairstyle. Shueshi lowered her eyes slightly, although she still wore a faint smile. Her earlier happiness was visibly gone. Seeing this, Jiangsu quickly asked, "What's wrong, Shueshi jia?" "It's nothing." Shueshi shook her head, her voice a little low. "You all shouldn't keep praising me. Today Shushu is the star. She might get upset if she sees it." Upon hearing this, Jiang Han immediately frowned. "What does her happiness have to do with us? You're the little sister we grew up with." Jiangsu nodded in agreement. "Right, she's just taking advantage of the fact that she just came back, and our great-uncle and grandpa are all doting on her." Despite saying that, they didn't dare to openly mock her loudly, only muttering quietly under their breath. A glint flashed in Shueshi's eyes, and she quietly inquired about their experience of finding Shushu. After all, in her opinion, Shushu didn't seem like someone who could be easily coaxed back with a few nice words. She had been thinking that if Shushu insisted on not returning home today, the Jiang family would lose face and would definitely blame Shushu for it. What a pity! She actually came back just like that. Jiangsu, seeing her curiosity, didn't hide anything and told her everything Jiang Yuqing had said. Shueshi was stunned. She hadn't expected her great-uncle to go to such lengths for Shushu. As expected, a biological daughter was different. She sneered inwardly, but on the surface, she instructed, "Remember, don't let Grandpa know about these things, otherwise he'll be sad if he knows that great-uncle is actually willing to abandon us for Shushu." As she spoke, she sighed meaningfully. "The family was always fine before, I don't know why it suddenly became like this." Under the implication of Shueshi's words, the Jiangsu brothers also felt that it was Shushu's return that had caused the family to be in chaos. The bit of amazement and desire to get close to Shushu that had just arisen instantly faded away. Seeing this, Shueshi decided to add more fuel to the fire, softly lamenting, "I hope Shushu will be more sensible now that she's back." Jiangsu's originally dissatisfied expression seemed to become somewhat complicated. After a long while he muttered softly, "She seems to have not had a good life in the Guan family. If she doesn't go too far in the future, let's just bear with it." Jiangsu felt uncomfortable thinking about Shushu living in that small, dilapidated rental house. Shueshi. The banquet began at 7:30 in the evening. The entire garden of the Jiang family had been decorated with lights in advance. As soon as it got dark, the lights of the entire Jiang family villa were all turned on, and the garden was surrounded by various light strips. From a distance, the entire villa looked like a magnificent and dazzling castle. Before 7 o'clock, various luxury cars drove up to the gate of the Jiang family villa one after another, followed by a group of carefully dressed young masters and ladies in various suits and gowns. Most of the people invited by Grandpa Jang were families who had a good relationship and frequent interactions with the Jang family, each of whom was a well-known figure in high city and even in the country. Most of the young people here came with their families, with only a few tasked with bringing gifts on their own. A single banquet, judging by its grandeur alone, was enough to make many sigh in wonder. Guan Ruerue's eyes widened when she saw these people as she got out of the car with her parents. Many of them were people her father couldn't even begin to associate with. And as for those top-tier socialites, they were figures Guan Ruerue could only admire on social media. Our Ruerue is still the best. She actually managed to get an invitation to the Jiang family's event. Truly our family's lucky star, Guan Baoqing said, looking at his daughter with eyes full of praise. Because of the Jiang family's sudden cancellation of their collaboration, Guan Baoqing's original outlook for the company had been dashed, and he was unwilling to let go of such an opportunity to climb into the Jiang family's good graces. Hearing that his wife and daughter had obtained an invitation to the Jiang family's banquet, he rubbed his hands together, eagerly anticipating the chance to regain the Jiang family's cooperation tonight. Bai Shuqin, watching her husband's eagerness to make a big splash, felt somewhat uneasy. She pulled her daughter aside and quietly asked, "Ruerue, should we give your father a heads up? What if he finds out that the Jiang family's eldest daughter really is? Your father isn't prepared." Previously, when the Jiang family and Guan family's collaboration was cancelled, Guan Ruerue and Bai Shuqin were worried that Guan Baoqing would blame them, so they had never told him that Shushu might be the Jiang family's missing eldest daughter. Guan Baoqing's sole purpose for coming tonight was to reconnect with the Jiang family. The Guan family stood at the entrance for a moment, and soon someone came out from inside. The person, dressed in a custom-made high-end suit and possessing handsome features, was none other than Pei Yuancheng, who had recently confirmed his relationship with Guan Ruerue. The Pei family was a well-known aristocratic family in Jing City, with considerable influence, but Pei Yuancheng was only a young master from a branch family of the Pei family. He had been tasked by the main family years ago to develop the market in High City, and only in the past 2 years had he gradually gained a foothold. Originally, a branch of the Pei family was not highly ranked in High City, but everyone was mindful of Jing City, and they were quite polite to the Pei Yuanqing family. It was through this relationship that the Pei family barely had a place in the top-tier social circle. For this reason, the Pei family had always planned to find a local wealthy family for Pei Yuanqing to form a family alliance through marriage. Pei Yuanqing initially chose Guan Shushu. After all, Guan Shushu liked him, and he was quite fond of her. But just a few days ago, the Guan family suddenly revealed that Guan Shushu was an adopted daughter, and that her biological parents were poor people living in the mountains. Pei Yuanqing immediately gave up all thoughts of Guan Shushu and turned to Guan Ruerue instead. When Guan Ruerue asked him to get tonight's invitation, Pei Yuanqing initially found it very difficult. As luck would have it, his second uncle's family suddenly had an accident yesterday and couldn't come, so the invitation became available, which is how the Guan family got it. That's right. Pei Yuanqing's second uncle's family was the Pei family that was visited by the Song family last night. If Pei Yuanqing knew why and by whom his second uncle's family had been targeted yesterday, he probably wouldn't have brazenly brought the Guan family to the Jiang family's banquet today. As more lights spread from inside the villa above the crowd, everyone couldn't help but follow the light and walk inside. The formal banquet welcoming the return of the Jiang family's eldest daughter finally officially began. Chapter 30. Tonight's protagonist finally arrives. The Jiang family's decoration has a low-key luxury. After the glass door connecting the front hall and the garden platform is opened, the entire banquet is semi-open. The banquet's decoration, process, and various delicacies are all arranged by professional planning companies. Although the Guan family also often attends various parties, they still can't help but envy the Jiang family's extravagance at this time. Looking at the socialites and young masters coming and going, Guan Ruerue straightened her back unconsciously as soon as she entered the door, trying to show her most beautiful side to everyone tonight. For tonight's banquet, she specially pestered Guan's father to spend a lot of money to buy Blue's new spring haute couture, a princess-style strapless gauze dress, paired with a small crown on her head, which set off her whole person like a princess. Coupled with Guan Ruerue's deliberately sweet smile, She did attract a lot of attention the moment she entered the door. However, before Guan Ruerue could pose in a more beautiful posture, the gazes that had originally looked over were withdrawn one after another. In the corner of her eyes, she could even see a bit of disdain. Guan Ruerue was a little dazed, not understanding what was wrong with her outfit. Little did she know that after she and the Guan family couple left, a girl in a black dress in the corner chuckled to the person next to her. Which family's young lady is that? Doesn't she know who the protagonist is today? She's even wearing a crown, as if she's the princess today? One person next to her said, she looks a little familiar, but I can't remember who she is. Isn't that the president of Guan's? Why is the Guan family also on today's invitation list? Not to mention that some people at the banquet noticed the Guan family. Jiang Yutong was obviously dumbfounded when he saw the Guan family walking towards him. Aren't these the Guan family? Who let them in? His elder brother had repeatedly emphasized that the Guan family had mistreated their Jiang family's daughter, and that Zhang's was not allowed to have any cooperation with the Guan family in the future. He had withdrawn all previous cooperation. How could this person be here? Vice President Jiang, it's so good to see you. I've always wanted to find an opportunity to meet you again, but I couldn't make an appointment. This is really a coincidence. Guan Baoqing burst into enthusiasm the moment he caught the person. After all, Vice President Jiang was the one who first approached him to discuss cooperation. Guan Baoqing's first priority upon entering the Jiang family was of course to find him. Jiang Yutong's wife is Jiang third Madame Xuaningyu. She was originally holding her husband's arm and chatting with people in the banquet hall. She was suddenly stunned when she saw the Guan family of three, but she still maintained a shallow smile and asked, Yutong, who are these? Xuaningyu had never met the Guan family. Although Bai Shuqin had visited her before, she was turned away before she even reached the gate, so she didn't recognize them either. Then she heard Jiang Yutong explain, let me introduce you, this is General Manager Guan and his wife, and this, I believe, is General Manager Guan's daughter. Hearing that their surname was Guan, Xuaningyu's expression instantly became more subtle. Although the Jianghai group was inherited by her eldest brother, Jiang Yutong always followed his lead, and the entire third branch was accustomed to listening to him. Xuaningyu knew that her eldest brother had a very low opinion of the Guan family. In fact, not only did her eldest brother look down on them, but she did too. She later learned that although Guan Shueshi was ostensibly the Guan family's eldest daughter, she was actually raised as Guan Ruerue's follower from a young age. Carrying her bag and buying her snacks were routine. When Guan Ruerue was unwell and hospitalized, Guan Shushu had to stay by her bedside to take care of her. It was all in the name of the older sister taking care of the younger sister. But it wasn't as if the Guan family couldn't afford a nurse. Was it really necessary for one child to take care of another? When Shushi was hit by a car and hospitalized while trying to save Guan Ruerue, the Guan family not only showed no gratitude but even kicked her out of the house empty-handed. If Bai Shuqin hadn't accidentally revealed her attitude toward Shushu when she visited yesterday, Jiang Yuqing wouldn't have bothered to investigate. The more they investigated, the more infuriating things they found. Even though there was no clear evidence that Bai Shuqin had abused Shushu, Shushu had indeed suffered a lot of grievances in the Guan family. Xuaningyu immediately felt no goodwill towards this family, and the expression on her face turned cold. So these are General Manager Guan and his wife. It's nice to finally meet you. Now that she knew what they looked like, she wouldn't let the guard let them in again next time. Guan Baoqing was preoccupied with the cooperation, so he didn't dwell on the Jiang family matriarch's attitude. Instead, he laughed and said, yes, my wife brought our daughter to visit the other day, but unfortunately, they didn't get to see you. She said she was disappointed when she got back. Luckily, we finally met today. Oh. Xuaningyu raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. Didn't Mrs. Guan tell you why they didn't get to see me? If Xuaningyu's previous attitude had made Guan Ruerue and her mother a little uneasy, this statement made their hearts skip a beat. Guan Baoqing was initially a little confused, but he was usually shrewd, and he finally noticed something was amiss. He subconsciously glanced at his wife and daughter, and seeing the obvious guilt in their expressions, his heart sank. He quickly said, my wife and daughter are spoiled by me. If they have offended Mrs. Jiang in any way, Please don't take it to heart. Looking at Guan Baoqing's attitude, Xue Ningyu subconsciously exchanged a glance with Jiang Yutong, who was standing beside her. They seemed to understand something. So the Guan family mother and daughter hadn't said a word about what happened at the Jiang family that day. That made things interesting. Mrs. Guan and Miss Guan didn't even get to see my wife that day, so there was no question of offense. Jiang Yutong chuckled, naturally unable to explicitly state that the cancellation of the collaboration with the Guan family was due to them offending his elder brother, as it would tarnish the Jiang family's reputation. Guan Baoqing, skilled in the art of business negotiations, immediately surmised that his business deal with the Jiang family had been ruined by Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruiwei's visit that day. These two were actually keeping it from him. Guan Baoqing's gaze swept coldly over the two women, but mindful of the occasion, he didn't make it too obvious, merely giving them a look that said he'd settle the score later. He then turned to Jiang Yutong with a sincere expression. Vice President Jiang, there must be some misunderstanding. Please don't let a small misunderstanding ruin the cooperation between our two companies. I sincerely hope to cooperate with Jianghai Group. If you have any ideas about the terms of cooperation, Guans can accommodate them. Jiang Yutong looked at him and simply shook his head. Actually, the cancellation of the cooperation was my elder brother's decision. I really can't help with this. Jiang Yutong feigned distress, acting as if this wasn't his intention, but he had to listen to his elder brother. When Guan Baoqing heard that it was actually President Zhang's decision, his heart sank once more. He didn't understand how it had become President Zhang's affair, and subconsciously looked at his wife and daughter, noticing that their complexions were even paler than before. He almost fainted on the spot. Just how many people did they offend during that visit to the Jiang family? Before Guan Baoqing could figure out how to interrogate the mother and daughter upon returning home, he heard Madame Jiang III suddenly speak, saying something completely unrelated. Oh, the star of tonight has finally arrived. President Guan has taken good care of our child in the past. Now that you're here, you must have a good drink. Guan Baoqing felt bewildered and subconsciously followed everyone's gaze to the corner of the staircase in the front hall. But when he clearly saw the beautiful figure carrying a sprig of pure white camellias slowly descending the stairs, he was instantly stunned.